Hello, everyone. Today is July 1st, 2021. This is the Kubernetes storage SIG meeting. Today, we will go over our 1.22 planning spreadsheet. And after that, I think we have a couple of things on the agenda. So we will look at those after our regular planning. And also, as a reminder, next Thursday, July 8th, is the code freeze. So if you have something that you want to get into 1.22, then you need to get that merged. The code is in tree. Okay, so look at the spreadsheet. The first one is delegate FS group to CSI driver instead of kubelet. I think Hemant is not here today.
Yeah,
does anyone know the status?
Yeah, Hemant's not here, but he said that the PR is out and he is currently reviewing it.
Oh, okay. Is this PR in tree or is this not in tree? Is the sidecar or is it in tree one?
I'm sorry.
I guess my question is this one. That's okay. We can check with him offline. I was just wondering if this one, do we need to? Is there a deadline? Like next week's deadline? Does that apply to this one? So I was just wondering. Maybe it does. This is like delegate of school tests. Okay, we can ask him offline. That's okay.
Yeah, I'm not certain.
Okay. Thank you. And the next one, CSI online offline resizing, only expansion. And oh, this one I think. Did you also have an update on this one? I think we don't really have an update on this one, right? Blocked. It's blocked. Next item. All right. So it's I think it's the same as before.
Yeah, I don't have any further updates on this one.
Okay. Recover from resize failure. Do you want to give an update on this one?
Yeah, so he said the recover from expansion is going to miss 1.22. There's more race conditions they identified, and the design needs to take that into account. So they will focus on it for 1.23.
Thank you. So we change this to design in this quarter. Next one is CSI entry read-only handling. Is Humble or Chang here? Do we have a update on this one? Okay, looks like we don't know. Next one is issues related to assuming volumes or mark points. Is it Xing here or Mukahid? Probably same as before then. Storage capacity tracking. Does anyone know? Okay, I think this is probably just bug fixing. Then PVC inline ephemeral volumes. Okay, it's probably the same, I think. I don't know what is the update, unless someone know, because I think Yang is not here, Patrick's not here today. Okay, so this one, yeah, so the spreading over failure domain, this one is dependent on the next one, volume group. I don't have an update on this one, so I'll try to update the cap. Next one is CSI auto tree move iSCSI driver. Question?
Yes, apologies. There's still the open PR that Humble's been working on to fix the node unpublish calls. So that PR is still in progress and needs to get merged first.
Okay. Thank you. Next, CSI auto tree move Samba CSI driver TGA. So I think we had a update from Julie last time, I remember. Do we have another update, or is it still the same? Windows is work in progress. All right, I'll just put no update here. Next one, send out deprecation notice for Flex following. Oh, okay. I think I need to ping Michelle or is Matt here. I think I'm waiting for a review. I drafted a message waiting for a review. Next one is PVC volume snapshot namespace transfer. Do we have Mustafa here? Okay, so I think there are some comments on that cap. There was a question for Sad. I think Sad is out this week, so we can ping him next week. Then we can discuss what is the solution to move forward. So Christian, my understanding is, and there's one way is the proposal in the cap that you put together, and then there was some other comments saying that we should do this just by adding a new field in the PVC, right? Those are two solutions. Are there anything else?
Not to my knowledge, but yes, you're correct in understanding there are two different proposals. One is being that we add a new API type, and the other one being that we modify the PVC spec directly.
Okay. Thank you. Wooden House, I did not finish updating the doc yet and write down the use cases, so I'll continue working on that. Volume populator, Ben.
Yeah, so this, I have a PR that implements the functionality and adds a bunch of new tests. I have not yet got it to pass PROW because I've discovered that when you add a new API field, there's all kinds of other things you need to do to prevent tests from failing. And I'm like working my way through that list of things. The PR is there. I've added Tim Hawken for review. I haven't gotten reviews yet, but I'm still focused on just fixing everything that is failing in PROW as a result of having a new API field.
Okay, thank you.
So hopefully on track for next week if we can get the reviews.
Yeah, yeah, and it's Thursday, right? So yeah, hopefully if you can get the test fixed, and then, well, I think even right now you can probably pin Tim to start reviewing, right? Because he
Yeah, like
Yeah.
the actual code is very small. The
Uh-huh.
impact on unit tests and other auto-generated files is large.
Okay, and some of those may not really. Sometimes it's flaky too. So maybe some of those may not be because of your change as well.
There's this auto-generated test data that does seem to need to
that
be
one.
updated. Yeah,
Okay.
like dozens and dozens of files with small changes that get impacted with a single new field. So,
oh, okay. Okay, thank you. So the next one is Cozy. I don't know if Srini is here or Ben. Would give an update on this. Cozy.
I do not have an update on Cozy. I mean, I've been going to the meetings, but there's no
Okay.
significant progress to report at this point.
Okay, I think the meeting, Monday's meeting was canceled.
Yes, Monday's meeting was canceled.
And
we'll meet this afternoon.
Yeah, we actually have one meeting after this one, so we just. I have not seen a cap because I think Jeff. I see he actually closed the original cap.
Yeah,
Huh?
Sid is rewriting the KEP, for those that don't know. The original author of the KEP had transitioned off the project and Sid had inherited ownership of it, and he was just sort of tweaking the existing KEP. But after receiving review on it for the 122 cycle, he decided it'd be better to just start over and sort of redesign the KEP from the ground up to focus on the right things, incorporating feedback from API reviewers. A lot of the old KEP was focused on stuff the API reviewers didn't care about, and it left out the stuff they did care about. So a rewrite really does make sense.
Yeah, but it's getting a little late. I'm hoping that because I was searching for that yesterday, I didn't see a cap out yet.
Yeah. I mean, for the 123 cycle, it's already starting to get late to get that reviewed. So
yeah, so yeah, we'll check with him after this meeting. And the next, okay, change block tracking. So we have not really made any progress. I think Fang is still working on the fixing the document part, but not really the design part yet. But I think we should get back to this. Next is new VMware only access mode. Do we have Chris here? Okay, so okay, let's see. Yeah, so we know that the CSS spec part that's merged. I think he talked about this one yesterday. I think there was some scheduling related changes that he may need to incorporate in the cap. So I'm not sure what he's going to do with that. Let's put this one here. Next one is the CSS proxy for Windows. Do we have anyone to give an update on this?
Hey, this is Deep.
Hey.
So we just released the RC1 last week
Okay.
and marching towards a V1. And so yeah, things are looking pretty good. If anyone has any feedback from using it, maybe for the CSI vSphere port for Windows or AWS, that'd be great. We already have quite a bit of feedback from GCPD and Azure.
Okay. Thank you. And the next one is the CSS migration core. Do we have a Java here or Matt? Okay, let's see, no update. Then probably we have a few CSS migration related items. Maybe we don't have update since Java is not here. Maybe they're just the same as before. So if anyone knows, just speak up. If I don't know, I'll just put no update here. The next one is vSphere. So what I know is that Debian has a PR to update the topology label that's merged. Raw block support we'll add that as an alpha release soon. Windows support is still outstanding. I don't know if
raw block support for Windows is.
Oh no, this is separate actually. Sorry, this is so those are the two things that are currently not in the CSS driver. That's preventing us from turning this on by default.
Oh, raw block support in the CSI driver. I understand.
And yeah, those are two separate ones.
I have an update about Windows.
Oh,
so I've been working. Yeah, this is Mauricio, and I've been working on enabling a lot of tests that were skipped in the E2E test suite. And for GC PDCSI driver, well, it's not related with that driver, but all of the in3 tests.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So for that one, all of our E2E tests were passing. I saw that there was one test pattern that was not included in the multi-volume test, so I needed to enable that. So like we were testing with every FS type, but NTFS was not being tested.
This is for This is for this is not the general E2 test. This is specifically for. Oh, you are adding this test in tree. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's my update. And for I think that in our migration test for GC PDCSI, all of the tests were passing. There were a few ones that were skipped, but as I said, I'm going to add what is needed to make them visible in the test script. Yeah. Okay. That's all it.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we got an update on GCE. And then for Azure, Andy's usually not in this meeting and Michelle's not here, so just no update. I don't know what is the status for this. And AWS Windows support, does anyone know? Okay, there's no update. Looks like there was a PR out from the last week's update. And next one is CEF-FS and CEF-RBD data migration. So I believe there was an email out, so maybe still waiting for a response, I assume. And next one is update topology labels from beta to GA for vSphere. So this is already, yeah, this is merged. We can probably cross this out. Okay, next one is a control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC. So Ronak is trying to draft some design, so we'll see how that goes. We'll check with him. He has something out. The next one is the secret production. Is Masaki here? So I think it's probably still the same that we are. There are some concerns from Jordan. It still needs to be addressed. Next one is user ID ownership in config maps and secrets. So, okay, so Java is not here, so I assume this one does not have any update. Non-graceful no shutdown. Okay, yeah. So we talked about this in the CSI community meeting, but I think James is not there. He has some concerns both on Ben's CSS spec PR and the CAP, but he's not there. So we still did not get those addressed. And then I talked to Xing, who was the original author of that CAP, about those new comments. So he said he's going to look into those concerns regarding bare metal because he doesn't think those are problems. So I will ping him later and see if he found out anything. And I'm also looking at the graceful no shutdown CAP and implementations and see if there's anything that we can leverage there, because I think they actually added like a node shutdown manager in kubelet. It actually knows if it's really a shutdown. So if we are going to narrow down the scope, as we discussed in our previous meeting, then maybe we could look into there and see if we can add anything. Okay, and then the next item is enable user namespace in kubelet. So UIDs get shifted. Do we, okay, this one probably don't, looks like we don't have any update on this one last time either. Next one is PVC created by StapleSet will not be auto removed. Does anyone know the status of this? This one should be very close. No? Okay. Because even I think even in previous release, this one is getting very close as well. Warning session for StapleSet. So I chatted with Shalini, who is looking at this. I think she has some questions. She's still working on the updating the CAP. And the next one is a container notifier. So we are, well, so still saying we're still waiting for SIG node to review. Next one is a Kubernetes utils mount split to a new repo. Do we have Srini here? I'll just say no update. And the next one is prioritization on volume capacity. I'm not sure. Okay, there's some PRs that are being updated, so I don't have an update on this one. Michelle is not here, so I'll just put no update here. And the last one is a CSS service account token. I think we trying to bring the CGA and all right, so I'm not sure what's the status since Michelle's not here. Okay, that's all for the spreadsheet. I'll go back here. So we have a design proposal. Alex, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. So I'm Alice, and I'm from Red Hat. So I'm working currently in KubeVer community, and currently I'm trying to solve a problem that I call it PVC locking, and you can see the current proposal there. So briefly to summarize the problem, so basically we are creating Tecton pipeline or creating pod that have inside VMs where the disk is stored on a PVC. And we are trying to find a mechanism to lock the PVC to avoid data corruption. So I know that there is this new access mode that is read-write pod once. However, KubeVer use share volumes for virtual machine migration. So this access mode, it's a little bit too restrictive and doesn't apply to this use case. So what I've been proposing, it's a new CRD resource that basically label the PVC that are in use, and there are some controllers that basically add and remove the label to the PVC. So this is done at controller level. So basically you extend your controller, creating this new CRD and checking the status. So if the PVC locking has been acquired successfully, then basically you can continue creating the pod. So this is just a brief summary of the proposal and the problem. My question are, do you see any other way how to solve the problem or any feedback? Yeah.
My first impression is like, which controller is going to implement this locking?
So for KubeVer, they have a controller called VMI.
Yes.
So basically,
So it will be outside of Kubernetes?
yes. Right now it's completely separate. That could be just a custom resource that you could just create if you need.
I guess so. Yeah, I think that's a question, right? So do we see a use case to bring this in internally? I guess my question is, when I was reading this, let's say if we have a controller, right, hosted by us, but then I was wondering who is going to use it? I mean, we can, of course, have a controller to apply the logs, but then in your case, I know that, you said the KubeVer will be using this, but in our case, that's the part that I'm not quite sure. So I see you have this example of deployment here. Does that mean we need to make some changes in the deployment controller?
I'm not saying we have to modify the deployment. It was just an example of a controller. I mean, that could be some custom controller. I mean, in the case, for example, for Tecton, you could add a custom task that create this resource. And then basically, in order to perform some disk operation on the PVC, you check if this lock has been acquired, in the state of this PVC locking is successful, and then you continue with the pipeline. And for the entire pipeline, your PVC is locked. And yeah. Yeah,
so I think normally we need to have a use case inside Kubernetes to bring this one in. That's the one thing that I still can't figure out yet, because I can clearly see a use case for Kuber, right? That may be deployment, but we don't know exactly how that is used. So if we say, hey, there is a deployment, there is a use case for deployment, then I think that makes sense to make this like an internal, I mean, not internal, I mean the like SIG storage owned CRD or controller or something like that. But otherwise, if we are only adding this log, adding the CRD, but we're not using it, but it's only for like other projects to use it, then in that case, normally that should be, you know, a CRD outside of Kubernetes.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm looking for use cases, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, if you can see or are aware about any possible use case, of course, I'm aware about the Kuber one. So I could see maybe some analogy if there are workloads that use shared storage, where use cases where, again, read-write one spot is too restrictive because the storage maybe has to be attached to multiple nodes. Or maybe you want to guarantee that the BPC is owned by a controller and that the pod level is too restrictive. So I know it's a very generic description, but I was hoping maybe somebody has ideas.
Yeah, I think probably we need, I don't know if anyone here can think of some use case. I can see this one is useful, just to, I mean, I just need to have something concrete.
Yeah, I understand
really use it.
I just wanted to mention, you can have a look to the proposal, and if you have any comments, please feel free to just comment in the Google Doc.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this definitely is interesting. I think, yeah, if everyone, please take a look and add your comments there. And if you have any other concrete use case, then we can see if we should bring this in Kubernetes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, does anyone have any comments about this? Or maybe people still need some time to read through this. So yes, it's fine. I think you can read this offline and add comments there. We can, we can come back to this one and talk more. Right. Okay, now the next topic, this is from Ben. Ben, you want to go over this?
Oh yeah, thank you, Xing. So this is something I wanted to socialize among this group. It's not a specific initiative that anyone's working on yet, to my knowledge, but we've had various problems over the last couple of years with user ID ownership of files in PVCs and access of pods to be able to read and write files in a PVC. I think mostly on container runtimes that do like UID shifting, and so there have been some workarounds implemented in Kubernetes, like the recursive chowning of files, like the group FSID and the security context where you can run pods as specific users and specific groups. And all these workarounds are mostly just to deal with the fact that, if you have multiple pods accessing a PVC over the lifetime in the PVC, you don't want to have a situation where like the second or third or fourth pod can't access the files that the first pod wrote. And the underlying problem is that the way containers work is just sort of badly designed with regard to this specific aspect. And I've been looking for a long time for a better solution in the Linux kernel to basically solve the problem at the root of it, which is the fact that when you shift a user ID in a container, the you can't see the user ID that you're actually writing on the files. So you'll think that you're root inside the container, but you're actually like UID 1 million outside the container. And so when you write files to the file system, they're getting written as user ID 1 million, but you don't know that. And like that's really just a bad design in terms of how the container runtime deals with file systems. So what I wanted to bring to people's attention was that finally in Linux 5.12, which shipped this April, so about two and a half months ago, a facility was added to Linux to do user ID shifting bind mounts, where you can take a user ID namespace and associate it with a bind mount, and the kernel will basically shift the file accesses so that if you think that you're root inside the container, even if you're actually user ID 1 million on the host, user ID 0 will get written to the file system when you access it, and you'll be treated as user ID 0 when you access the file system, which is what you want. If you think that you're root, the file system should treat you like your root, at least for that particular bind mount. So if we could take advantage of this facility in Kubernetes, it would solve all of the problems around user ID, and user IDs and pods not being able to access files and volumes, I believe. But it's going to require changes potentially at the CRI level, potentially changes at the CSI level, definitely changes in Kubernetes. And of course, because it's a brand new Linux kernel feature, it may take a while to roll out to widely deployed Linux distros. But I basically just wanted to make people aware that like this is coming. This is a better way to solve all of the user ID, file system ownership problems. And I'd like to sort of recruit some people to, that are interested in solving this to look at some kind of design to take advantage of this in Kubernetes, because it's in Linux now. We can start playing with it, and it'll soon be widely available, I presume. And it's gone through a lot of work upstream. Like people have been aware of this underlying problem upstream for at least 5 years, maybe longer. Have been trying to fix it, and they kept getting rejected, and the design kept changing and improving and changing and improving. And so what is merged, I think, is actually quite good. It's just a matter of figuring out how we can use it in Kubernetes to really solve the problem of pod file system access with PVCs. So yeah, I just wanted to socialize this, make people aware that it's that the real solution to this problem is finally available to us, and it's just a matter of implementing it in Kubernetes. if someone is willing to put the time in.
do you know usually how long does it take for this new feature to get widely adopted? Like
well, I mean,
support it.
Linux kernels, I mean, it depends on the distro. Some distros just wait for some distros ship relatively modern kernels. Other distros only ship LTS kernels. But like, I believe, and someone from Red Hat could correct me here, but like Red Hat will backport features from new kernels into old kernels if they're useful enough. What they won't do is backport a feature that hasn't merged to the mainline kernel yet. But now that it's in 5.12 and it's committed, presumably it's possible for someone to backport it to a LTS kernel or some sort of more stable kernel that is shipped on like a Red Hat OS, or maybe it'll start showing up in Core OS or one of the container optimized OSs. I mean, there's all these different Linux distros that have different approaches to kernels, but it's just a matter of time. It's available in some of them today, and it'll be available in more of them as we go along. And regardless, it'll take a while for it to roll out in Kubernetes, right? If we write a KEP now, maybe it becomes alpha in 1.23, maybe it becomes beta in 1.24. There's a slow rollout process. So by the time any such feature could get widely adopted, the Linux kernel may have caught up. But it's really a fundamentally better way of dealing with pods and file system access. And if we had a solution that relied on it, we could get rid of all of the recursive chown games that we play, and all of the user FS group stuff in the security context. Like all of that would be unnecessary, because you would just have access to your files based on the UID of the user in the pod.
Okay, so I want to see if there's anyone who's interested in doing some prototyping and design with this.
Yeah, so this is Jonathan. I listened to this after you brought it up on the CSI meeting the other day, and I think this is pretty interesting. So I'd like to help. I'm time constrained like everyone else. So I don't know how much I can commit right now, but it's something I started to look at a little bit at least. And one thing I noticed when I was reading through some of the docs on this feature is that it has to have file system support. So it's implemented for ext4 and FAT right now. But if we have to support other file systems underneath, then we may still need the recursive chown around for a while.
Yeah, it is file system specific, but I thought that they had covered ext4 and ext3 and XFS. I could be wrong about exactly which file systems have been covered, but I think the big common ones have been, and you're right. We may need a fallback for esoteric file systems that where this can't work, but that's we already have file system type checks when we decide whether to do the recursive chown or not in kubelet, so we could just modify those checks to opt out. You know, for you'd have to have some way of detecting whether the feature was even available on the platform where kubelet was running, and then if it was, you could use it for the file systems where it worked, and if it wasn't, you could just use the fallback. There'd have to be a runtime check because it's not widely available in kernels yet.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. So I'll spend a little bit more time playing around this when I can, and then I'll probably be in touch with you and Hamad to figure out sort of next steps.
All right, thank you.
Great.
You bet.
Thanks. Okay, I put your name there then.
I'm just
Alright.
curious, if it is file system dependent, should we involve CSI driver in there at some point?
So I gave a little bit of thought to, you know, how exactly would you implement this, and I don't want to rule out the involvement of the CRI or the CSI interfaces, as I mentioned, but I suspect that we probably don't need to. I suspect it all could be done in kubelet, but I want to keep an open mind about that until we have like a POC that sort of shows how it could be done. In particular, because it relies on Linux namespaces, it would be very hard to plumb a Linux namespace through CSI.
Yeah.
And it feels like the best thing to do is let CSI just produce the base mount and then stick a bind mount on top of what CSI gives you that performs this UID shifting so that we don't have to deal with the concept of namespaces in CSI.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, great. Okay, do we have anything else to cover today? All right, if not, that's it for today. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Bye.
Xing.
Bye.